everyone, and welcome back to Ghouls Night In, a spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark,
And I'm Midge Munster.
and if you don't follow us anywhere besides this podcast, you may not have seen all of the wacky shenanigans and adventures we got up to in California for Midsummer Scream.
Yes, and I'd be shocked if you haven't seen it somewhere, by the way that all of us have been incessantly sharing. It's clear that we had an okay time.
It was pretty all right.
It was fine.
Yeah, we got lots of questions about how the event was, what it is, and so this is our recap episode. We're going to talk about what we did, what it was like, if you should go, all of those good things.
Yeah, I'm excited to reminisce. It's been, gosh, have we been home two, 2 weeks?
2 weeks now, yeah.
Holy heck!
I
Wow.
know.
So yeah, I'm excited to reminisce. I miss it already.
I know. All right. Well, just to set the scene, we did get some questions about what exactly Midsummer Scream is. So this event is held in Long Beach, California, and it is a Halloween and horror convention. So if you've been to like a comic convention or an anime convention, it is just like that. So there is a vendor floor with lots of spooky vendors. There are panels and presentations and performances, and just lots of cool vibes. Lots of people there who are into spooky stuff.
I really liked this particular convention because I feel like there are a fair amount of horror conventions
Hmm.
like that are very based in, horror movies and that aspect of the community, but I feel like Midsummer Scream does a really good job of implementing like the Halloween love. Like
Yes.
there's a lot of cozy good like just spooky vibes as well, not just, you know, extreme.
Yeah, I definitely like when I first walked into the vendor floor, I was a little bit like, "Oh my," cuz of course, one of the first, things you walk in is a big haunt, advertisement, and then there was like a booth full of like terrifying rubber masks, and those are definitely not my preferred ways to celebrate my Halloween vibes, but throughout the convention there are just tons of different options, kind of for wherever your passions lie in the world of spooky things.
You didn't enjoy being greeted by that haunting cow woman?
No, I mean, she was pretty cool, but I was like, no cow woman and pig men for me, thank you. One of the other things that's special about Midsummer Scream is it does have a focus on haunts and on haunted attractions. So they have something called the Hall of Shadows, where it's kind of like a almost like a mini show floor where people who produce haunts are kind of showing off their creativity, their effects, and I went part way in. Like, so kind of the beginning part, they had it set up, the theme was like a neighborhood, which was really cute. So each different house was something spooky. So there was one that was like a crazy clown house, and there was a trick or treat themed house, there was a gremlins house, but they do also have like mini haunts set up in there, and I did not go in any of those, but Midge
but
could tell you about that.
but I did. Yeah. Yeah, honestly the Hall of Shadows in as a whole was my one of my top parts of Midsummer Scream. Um I think it was just it felt like Halloween in there. Like that, like
Hmm.
you said, the neighborhood was so cool. They had, different people who were associated with each of the designs, like in costume, handing out candy. Like you could literally like walk up and down and trick or treat. The little neighborhood was so cute. But yeah, so I did go with James and Bianca into some of the mini haunts in the back. They were honestly really fun, and I have been a person who does not do haunted houses
Hmm.
in my past. um, but these were really I enjoyed it because the way they were presenting it was very much to show like here's what we've created. Like, and so many of them had really unique takes on scares. Like one of my favorite ones, I believe it was, no, it wasn't Corona Haunt. Crud. I don't remember which one it was, but it was this like church
Ooh.
facade, this really kind of creepy church facade. And one of the rooms, they had a guy like laying across rafters, like above
Ooh.
you, and he had these giant hand props that would like swipe down. And I have been through many haunted houses in my day. I've never been scared from above. That was that was really really cool and unique. And now this was the Corona haunt, I believe. My favorite thing, that they had a room in one of the haunts where it looked like you were inside like the guts of a pumpkin.
Ooh.
And it was all like blacklit, and the pumpkin guts were like stringing down the walls, and they had all these jack-o'-lantern faces that were lit up like in the wall. It was so cool. um yeah, so I really I really enjoyed that. I liked that they were mini haunts, so each one to walk through probably took 5 minutes max, and that's like about the appropriate amount of time for me to be scared.
Yeah.
Like anything past that, I start getting overstimulated. But that if you happen to attend in the future and you're somebody who doesn't love a haunted house, this is a really, it's like haunted house microdosing. You get the little bump of scare, and all the actors were really like fun and like having a good time with it. They weren't trying to like ruin our lives. They were they were playing with us. And um yeah, it was really a blast. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad that I didn't know that I was going to do that, because I historically probably wouldn't have. But going through it with some friends and just knowing we were there to see what they'd created and have a good time, I'm really glad I ended up doing it.
Yeah, I did watch, in if you haven't seen, Midge did put up her, like, recap video, of the trip,
Hmm.
and watching some of it, maybe next time I'll give it a shot.
Well, and the nice thing was too, James was a trooper and like a hero for me. If you guys don't know James, that Halloween bro, he's great. He's all over Instagram with like some of the funniest reels and TikToks you've ever seen. Um, but he had gone through them the first day with Miranda and some folks.
Yeah, so
Um,
he was prepared.
well, and the funny thing though was, if you watch the video, he still got the shit
Yeah.
scared out of him every single time, which was so funny. Like I was like, James, didn't you come through this yesterday? And he's like, yeah, but it was different.
With so
But
much of that stuff, it's the anticipation though too.
oh,
Like
absolutely.
even watching on the video, it's always like I know that this thing is gonna jump out and scare me. Like I can tell that this is where it's gonna be, but it's
Right.
still just as scary when it happens.
You're not wrong. Yeah, that is true. Um, but yeah, he went first, which was nice, and then also he kind of gave me the DL on like which houses were more tame versus which
Yeah.
ones were more like so we went through kind of the chiller haunts. So maybe that's the gameplay for you next year, is
Yeah.
like we'll send out some scouts.
Yep, yep, yep. Gotta get the preview.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, after the Hall of Shadows, obviously the vendor floor is huge at Midsummer
Oh
Scream.
my
There were
god.
over 300 vendors, I think they said. I still feel like even on the very last day, as we were like walking through, like trying to like catch some of the last ones we knew we wanted to see, I would like turn a corner and be like, I didn't see any of this. Like
Oh, I
I've
know
spent
for a
I've spent
fact.
hours on this vendor floor and I still did not see, certainly did not see every vendor.
No, I know for a fact I missed a good third of it at minimum. And honest, I think because the rows that they had, like the
Yeah.
banners, the Shacktober banner, um, some of them were. I mean, it was labeled like I don't know if that was just the rows like 1 through 7 or whatever, but they were up to the 700s as far as booth numbers. And
Mhm.
then like, so I think there were more than 300 vendors. There were so, it felt like 5 or 600. Like it was so many.
Yeah, it was crazy. And there's just a really big variety. It's pretty much like anything spooky you could want to buy. They had it. There's, just like cool t-shirts, lots of artists,
So much art.
both visual like drawings and paintings, as well as sculptures and other fascinating creations, other clothing, parasols, accessories, candles, just anything. And like we said before, spooky masks and like really like horror related things.
Yeah,
So
really cool mask makers. I
you
wish
could
that's
buy
the one thing
anything.
I wanted that I didn't
Yeah.
get, because I was like, how am I going to get a like sculpted mask home?
Yeah, that was the struggle. I would say the main struggle, for those of us who are non-California locals
Mhm.
was, it was just like, how am I gonna get this stuff home?
I had so many people commenting on my YouTube video and being like, Midge, just ship it home. And I'm like, have y'all looked at the price of shipping anything
Right.
right now?
Yeah, especially or there was, I know that you showed it off in your video, but like there was someone who made like incredibly detailed like pumpkin sculpture
Oh
portraits
my
where
God, yeah.
they're, those like reusable pumpkins and just like all like hand sculpted. I would have loved to have one of those, but like it would certainly not have gone on the plane with me. And it was one of those things where it was like, if I'm going to ship it home, I might as well just wait and
Order it.
order it and get it
Right.
shipped to my house anyway. So
But that is
but
the
it was
nice
really
thing.
cool to see everything in person so that you know where to shop later.
Right. Yeah, and you get like, yeah, that's the nice thing is you can like get everybody's business cards and you're
Hmm.
seeing the like quality of the product in real time. And man, people are really crazy talented. The different artists and things. Yeah, I could have spent all my money just on the vendor floor alone.
Yeah, it was fabulous. And they did have a row of like signings and photo ops. So that's pretty common at like a Comic Con or other like pop culture convention where you have actors or directors, creators of all kinds, that are available, some of whom you can purchase a photo op or an autograph from. We also, very luckily, as some of you saw on Instagram, met Christine McConnell on the floor, which was just a huge highlight. Definitely like I felt like I was gonna hyperventilate when so some of you may have heard this story, but we had just come out of the Hall of Shadows, on Saturday morning, and um, saw someone, who is a podcast fan in line. It was Girl with the Curl, right?
Yeah, which I actually think she changed her handle to
Oh,
Ghoul with the Curl
Ghoul with the
now.
Coo very good, I love it, but, she said, "Hey," and we were taking photos and chit-chatting, and, like, slow-mo glanced over to the side and realized she was waiting in line to meet Christine McConnell, who was sitting right there in all of her spooky vintage glory and beauty, and,
I got
Midge
we got
100%
jump
Midge
scared by Christine
literally fell
McConnell.
on the floor in excitement.
Yeah.
And of course, we immediately also got in that line.
Yeah, which and yeah, because she, I mean, like you just said, there was that signing line at the front of the con in the 100s row,
Hmm.
and Christine was like in the back by herself. Clearly, nobody knew she was back there.
Yeah.
I think we waited what 4 people ahead of
Yeah.
us to
Yeah. We
meet
got like
her.
right in there.
Crazy. And holy hell, she is the nicest human being I have ever
So
had the pleasure
nice.
of speaking to.
Just so incredibly sweet and thoughtful, and just, you know obviously, it's tough when you are a celebrity meeting lots of people, and everyone's going through, and what are you going to say to some people, but like she did not make it feel like that at all. Like you really
No.
felt like she was so happy to meet you and really invested and wanted to hear about your project and why you were excited to meet her, and was just also just so otherworldly beautiful. Like
Oh
I
my
got
god.
I got more than one person message me when I posted the photo and be like, "Is that really her? It
Or
looks it looks
is it a
like a
cutout?
wax figure because she looks so immaculate."
Yeah, no, she literally looks exactly like she looks in photos in real life, which is unfair to the rest of us for
I
sure.
know, right?
Yeah, and like Penny said, just I mean, she probably spent a solid 5 to 7 minutes with each of us, like really talking to us. Um, like I feel like she's the opposite of never meet your heroes. Like
Yes.
she's
Agreed.
exactly not only exactly what I hope she would be, but even like more than that. Um, and then like and then she followed all of us on Instagram
I
question
know.
mark.
Thank you, Christine. We love you.
like like I don't know, you I mean I've met, a decent amount of like different types of quote celebrities or whatever, and they're always like nice about stuff. And she was like, oh yeah, like I'll do this or I'll follow that, and you're like, okay, like I know you're being nice. But then she actually like followed through, which I think is, yeah, just a testament to how like she really gives a crap about her community and everything. She's awesome. And then we got to go to her panel, which was
Yes.
awesome and
Yeah.
really cool and informative.
Yeah, I would say her. So I, unsurprisingly to any of you guys, I am a big nerd. So I always am like most interested in like the panels and the programmings at conventions, and have often been like, there wasn't enough good stuff. Like I went to Wizard World Chicago a couple of years ago, definitely, in the before times,
Is
and it
that
was
a
kind of
Harry
like,
Potter thing?
no, actually,
Oh.
it's like I have also been to Harry Potter conventions. But Wizard World is like a big brand convention. Like they hold, it's like a comic and pop culture convention. They hold them in a bunch of different places. I
Okay.
actually went to this one because I had bought a meet and greet with Sebastian Stan, and then he canceled.
Oh
So
no.
sigh. I mean, he was filming. It's fine. I understand, but it was one of those things where like you couldn't refund your ticket, and that was the main reason I wanted to go. But
That's
then I
what
got
happened
there.
with me and Planet Comic Con with
Yep.
Elvira this year.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I got there, and like the panels weren't great in my opinion. Like they had a couple like really big name panels, but like you had to wait for hours and hours to get into those, and like
Mm.
none of the like smaller programming was very interesting in my opinion.
Like it was definitely an afterthought kind of thing.
Yes. It was like, sure, yeah, you can do something.
Hmm.
But I really, so that is to say, for shitting on Wizard World, to say that I really enjoyed the programming at Midsummer Scream. I thought that they had
Yeah.
a really good mix on like their main stages of different types of content. Like you had like horror stuff, you had haunt related stuff, you had more like creator focused stuff. And there was even I went to a like a vintage Halloween and like haunted house history panel that was really cool, as well as they had like a lot of different like artists and performance programming throughout the day. But yeah, Christine's panel was one of my very very favorites.
I love too that they had the podcast lounge. They
Yeah.
featured a lot of live podcasting and stuff of different um, podcasts, and then also like they had different kind of like they had the Hocus Pocus with the cast from that doing
Hmm.
like a live thing with a podcast. Yeah, that was. I mean, obviously, Penny and I are podcast
Mm.
fans and
Mm.
podcast nerds, so that was really cool to get to go to some live recording stuff.
Podcast related programming. How interesting. What a thing to be a part of.
Yeah,
That would
maybe
sure be fun.
wouldn't that be neat if we could do something like that?
That would be so cool. That would be like, that was, I think we talked a lot at the event about like manifesting things and how we were all like,
Hmm.
we got to meet Christine. We're doing this. We're doing that. I've achieved this. And I was just like, me and Midge we're gonna do a live podcast at an event someday. I am
I
manifesting
had
that.
entered this year with the understanding in my Gemini moon brain where I'm constantly making delusions of grandeur, where I was like, well, this is my year to enjoy the con before next year when Penny and I will be featured in the podcast lounge.
Yes, make it
like I
happen.
I was already there in my head. I was like, well, next year Ghouls Night is on the docket, so better make the most of it.
Hell yeah. This is Okay, this is a complete side note. I don't know if any of our other any of our other listeners are fans of the McElroy brothers and like my brother and me.
Mm.
But they they had a whole side podcast called "The McElroy Brothers Will Be in Trolls 2," where they were just like, we are manifesting that we are going to be voice acting in Trolls 2, and they did. So there you
That's
go.
hilarious.
So right now we are starting a sub podcast called Ghouls Night In will be
We'll
at
be at
Midsummer
Midsummer
Scream.
Scream. That's so funny. Uh, do we bring up the conversation we had with Miss Thang, Miss
Oh,
Christine?
oh yes. So we did when we did meet with Christine, we told her that she is our dream podcast guest, and she said that she was interested.
Yeah,
So
like
we
didn't miss a
will,
beat. Was literally
yeah,
like, do you film that remotely? And we're like, yeah. And she was like,
yeah.
oh, cool, let's do it. Like,
So we'll see. Maybe you will hear the fabulous Miss Christine McConnell on a future episode of Ghouls Night In. We would absolutely love to have her, and would would need many deep breaths.
yeah, for all of our listeners who are definitely, I'm sure we have witches in the audience. Send manifestation good vibes to
Yes,
us
thank you.
for that to come through.
But yeah, her circling back to her panel
Hmm.
where we started this conversation. It was just really good. It was so nice to hear her talk about some of her projects. They kind of like went through like a slideshow of images of like different projects she's done, different photos she's created, and she talked a bit about kind of the work that went into them, the stories behind them. Gave us some sneak previews of the things that she's doing next, which is so
Oh
exciting.
my god.
Excited to
Yeah.
see her do another Monster House this year that she said that she'll be doing at her new place, which would be so cool. And It was just wonderful to hear from her. Even though I know that she wasn't feeling very well and she was losing her voice a little bit, but was such a trooper to come and talk forever anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the panel was great. Also, this just popped into my head, and while I'm thinking about it, because my brain doesn't hold
Yep,
information for very
hit
long,
me, hit me.
panel wise, if y'all decide to attend this conference in the next, couple years, spring for the gold bat pass. Just do
Yes.
it. So there are different levels of entry into the conference, and there's like general admission, and then the next step up is gold bat, and that pass basically grants you early access lines to things like the panels, and you get like front row. Like when we went through the haunts, we didn't have to wait in line; we went right in. Um, what else? I mean, it does all like
You get in an hour earlier every day,
yeah.
so, like, it opens, so you get an extra hour on the vendor floor before it's open to general admission. Yeah, so if any of you you may have seen some of my posts, I foolishly did not purchase the gold bat and was like, "That's fine." Like, I've never bought VIP at a convention before, like, it can't be that big of a deal, and then I was
Narrator, it was that big
it
of a deal.
was. Yeah. After the very first night of checking in with registration, which was in general not handled super well. That was probably the low point of the
Yeah.
convention. Definitely, we're a bit rusty with getting people, checked in and ready to go. But yeah, I was stuck in the general admission line, and I kept texting our group chat, being like, "The peasants are revolting. We're mad out here."
Penny was a little lobster lady by the time she
I
joined us because she had been out in the
was.
sun
I
for
was
like
so
2 hours.
pink.
Ugh.
But thankfully, a member of our group had a spare gold bat that they were very willing to pass on to me. So shout out to All Hallows Geek. You are my
Yeah.
hero.
Thank you, Mike and
Thank you,
Misty.
Mike and Misty. But yeah, it was 100% worth it. Like every time we would do something, and like, so you line up like separately. So there would be like a gold bat line for panels and a GA line. And if you weren't like lined up in the gold bat line and they were still letting in the general admission line, you got to just walk right in.
Mhm.
So it is definitely worth it, if especially if you are like interested in seeing panels. Like if there are people that you're really excited to see, I would definitely go for it.
Speaking of which, our gold bat was the reason that we were able to be in the front row of a panel.
Of a very special panel. So I this is well, we'll see. It'll be a future episode, some future episodes for sure. But we've already talked on this podcast about being huge fans of both Brian Fuller and obviously the Scream franchise.
Yeah.
We are big fans of those. And Fangoria magazine had a panel called "Making Horror Fun Again," which featured Brian, Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, and Michael. I've lost his last name.
I
Um,
literally have talked about this 12 times in the last 5 days, and I can never remember his last name.
we're sorry if you ever hear this, Michael. But he wrote "Freaky" and "Happy Death Day." Correct?
No, he did not.
No,
No,
he
he
didn't.
was not involved with Death Day.
Oh, okay.
But
Sorry, I got mixed up with someone else
but
mentioning that.
they are those are I think yeah, he brought it up a lot because they're definitely his writing is in that same kind of genre.
Yes, but they were there talking about writing for horror, about like, and it was interesting because like the kind of the concept of the panel was like having fun with horror, but they all three of them are gay men, and so they ended up talking a lot about like queerness and representation
Yeah,
in
it definitely
horror,
ended
which
up
was
being a
awesome.
panel about being gay, which was awesome.
Right? I was like, even better. Hell yeah.
Oh, I gave it a goog. Michael Kennedy
Michael Kennedy,
is the
yes.
gentleman who was also featured. Who I did not know him going in, and I really enjoyed listening to him speak.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I had heard of Freaky. I have not seen it, but I really enjoyed like his perspective and all of kind of the stuff he was chatting about. So I am interested in learning more about his
I
work.
I did end up watching it while I was quarantined with the coof this
Oh.
week. um, it was fun. It's really Freaky was a fun movie. It's camp, like it's
Yeah.
definitely not taking itself seriously at all. And it's not like it wasn't like wow, this is incredible film like
Yeah.
cinema. But it was really really fun. I'd recommend it if you're looking for just a good old comedy horror romp.
There you go. But yeah, as Midge said, we so that was like the primary thing on both of our lists for Sunday was to
Hmm.
go see this panel, and so we headed up there fairly early, and I think it's because of Hocus Pocus that we got such good spots
I think you're absolutely
because
correct.
there
Yeah.
was a live podcast recording with Max and Allison from Hocus Pocus, which I was also interested to go to, but I was like, I am focused on this Fangoria panel.
Yeah.
I gotta see Brian. And so we ended up being like behind like four people waiting in line in the
Hmm.
like the VIP line for it. And even one of the volunteers was like, "You guys probably don't have to wait around. Like you're gonna get in." But we were like,
Yeah.
"Well, like we're just gonna be sitting somewhere else, so we'll just stay right here." And we ended up getting front row for the panel.
I'm so
And
glad that we stayed too, because he was like,
me
you can probably
too.
show up like 15 minutes before
Yeah.
since you're gold bat. And like 15 minutes before, the lines were wrapped around like
Yeah, it
downstairs.
real yeah, because I think people were at the Hocus Pocus thing, and so it wasn't
Hmm.
like an early line, but then a ton of people came over
All at
from
once.
there or from another, program,
Yeah.
and there was a big line by the time we got in. And we even ended up sitting like directly in front of Brian,
Oh my
which
God.
was just, a complete crapshoot because there were just four chairs set up on there for the three of them and their moderator. And he was right there, and I was freaking out because, as many of you who follow me know, this was my birthday. Also,
Yeah.
so I was riding that Leo birthday high and feeling it, and I was like, this is it. I'm seeing him, and I think I tweeted or I definitely like messaged some friends, and I was like, I'm seeing Brian Fuller at Midsummer Scream on my birthday. Like, if I got to like meet him or say hi to him, like my life would be entirely made.
I
Like,
can die right here at
pretty much.
33.
I was like, I know that like the likelihood is not super high. Like, I was like, it's much more likely that I'll get to meet Christine just because, she is more approachable
Yeah.
than that. And I knew that like he certainly wouldn't be just like wandering around.
Right.
And I was like, oh, but if I got to say hi or got a photo, like that would be everything. So we enjoyed this fabulous panel, listening, having so many laughs and just a good time. And of course, when they asked if there were audience questions, stuck my hand directly up in the air. And
Which I don't know if y'all know this about Penny, but she does sometimes stand out in a crowd with her green hair and like her
I know
pure.
I was about to say the moderator was like, "Ooh, green hair," and I was like, "Hell yeah, this is
Well,
what it's for."
you were wearing your like your birthday dress. You're in this bright orange like dress with a
Yes,
bat headband. Like
yes,
she was like a beacon glowing in the front row. It was
yes.
awesome.
My goal for that day, I was like, I'm a Halloween princess because it's my birthday. But yep, the moderator called on me, and I uh, I don't even remember. I was like freaking out and was like trying to think of a really good question because I also like I have a million questions for Brian Fuller specifically, but like
Hmm.
I didn't want to be that person who's just like I have a question for one of you because it had been a really good panel and like they were all I wanted to hear all of their thoughts, so I was kind of like what is a good question like that applies to everybody on
Yeah.
this panel. And I was like, oh, like it's the best birthday present to see you and see this great panel today. And Brian like immediately was like, it's your birthday? What's your name?
And then you said your name, and he said Benny.
Yeah.
You're like, no,
Penny,
Penny.
Penny.
Why would it be Benny?
I know. But then he started saying happy birthday and everybody in the room saying happy birthday to me. And it was like it still feels fake. Like
Yeah.
it feels like I don't know if you've seen this when like someone tells like a story online that sounds like too good to be true and like there's like a meme of someone replying and being like yeah and then I did a kickflip and everyone
Yeah.
applauded.
Yeah.
It feels like me being like and then I did a kickflip and everyone applauded but it was true, it was real. Midge took video of it so you know it really happened.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was recording at that point because I think we both would have been like, did that just happen?
Yes.
Like if I hadn't
Oh,
been.
oh my goodness. Yep. So that was just the best possible birthday present. It was so wonderful. And then they
Brian
they had
was
he was so kind
he was
and
wearing his little bug shirt
he
and
was
his
wearing
little
a
shining
bug shirt and
socks.
shining socks. So
He's so
cute.
cute.
And because we were front row, we were able to like dart up super fast at the end. And obviously, he recognized me with my green hair and everything from there. And we talked to him about pushing daisies, and he seemed like delighted that someone wanted to talk about pushing daisies, which made me so happy.
I did notice, like, it was one of my favorite. I'm like holding on to this little bit in my heart for the rest of eternity. When he or the moderator said, um, sorry, my brain literally just stopped working. Um, they were talking about the things he had worked on, Brian had worked on, and
Yeah.
while I'm thinking about it too, I wanted to point out the moderator. Her name is Nay Beaver.
Oh, she was
Um,
awesome.
she was an incredible moderator, and she is one of the like consultants on the upcoming Queer for Fear documentary that's coming to
Yes.
Shudder this fall. And definitely check her out as well. Really, really awesome. Anyway, I think Nay had asked about like things he had worked on, and Brian said something about like, does anybody know Pushing Daisies? And of course, I
Yes.
let out a scream that I scroam,
Quite a
uh,
hoot.
a hoot and a holler. But Brian like looked down at me and like winked, and I was like,
Yes.
I'm gonna pass out.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I feel like
Yes.
that is like one. I mean, the people who know Pushing Daisies are hardcore
Yes.
fans, but like it is like a weird, I feel like not a lot of, it's one of his lesser known things, especially like in a post Hannibal world.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
there were definitely a bunch of fanables, with,
mhm.
like, their flower crowns in the front row, which same, hard same, but I also love pushing daisies.
Yeah. And well, I didn't know if you were about to move on from this panel.
No, go for it.
I wanted to very quickly talk to you about Kevin Williamson.
Yes.
Because I mean, if y'all are just getting to the podcast, go back and listen to the Scream episode
Yes.
because I am a huge, huge, huge Scream franchise fan. I'm a huge Kevin Williamson fan. And one thing I really loved about this panel, like Penny said, obviously they were all the men speaking are queer men. Um, I believe that Michael is Latino or like, but it was, I mean, I think
Yeah.
they did a good job acknowledging the fact that it was still like three mostly white people talking about horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and something that Kevin talked about that I particularly appreciated, like the panel in general was not shy about talking about the parts of horror that we still have to work and improve upon. And Kevin made a point of talking about like that when they made the first Scream film, he said like we did not set out to make a white horror movie, but we did.
Yep.
And I now have to like take accountability for the fact that I also didn't do anything to not make it that way.
Yep.
And they spent a really good amount of time talking about just, you know, race and gender dynamics in horror and like how do we, and this was kind of how it played into the like making horror fun again. It was like how do we have horror movies that are fun and scary, but don't, when we have these characters who are people of color, who are queer people, who are, you know, women or different, like different than what we see represented all the time, how do we make the terror of the film not about the trauma that those people
Hmm.
experience as marginalized people? And that was a discussion I was so excited to see happening at a huge, on a huge, like, I mean, obviously it's not like a national scale, but that room was full to the
Yeah,
brim
yeah,
with
and
people.
on the main stage,
And
like,
on the main
primary
stage,
yeah, primary programming, yeah, I really appreciated that too, because I also, like I didn't think it was going to be like that because
no,
obviously I saw who well, and it's like I saw who was gonna be on the panel because I
right.
think that, like, the idea of, like, a lot of people would it could easily be like, "Oh, horror should be fun. You shouldn't be thinking about political stuff
Yes.
and blah, blah, blah," and, like, they all were like, "Horror has always been political. Horror is
Yes.
about survival. It is inherently about identity and about, like, people, and that doesn't mean that it can't be fun," which I
Right.
really appreciated because I could have seen like if it was that concept with a different crowd, like you could easily be like, why
Mhm.
can't we just kill people like we used to? And it's like it's never been like that. Like
Well,
you are imagining something that did not exist.
yeah, and that's, yeah, Nay in particular, she kept saying like horror has always been political, and
Yeah.
I appreciated that. And like now too, this is a smidge off topic, I apologize, but like in the wake of if y'all have not watched, so Prey, that just came out
Yes.
on Hulu, incredible, and is
So
now like
good.
Hulu is like one of their number one streamed things of all time at this point. And in the wake of that, having just been to that panel, because there are so many people that movie's also receiving a lot of backlash. People like, why does it have to be woke? Like, and so yeah, I was just really impressed and excited, and it didn't come off virtue signaling or performative.
No,
Like it
yeah.
was an honest conversation about where horror is going and where it has to go, where it has to change, to continue telling relevant stories. And that was a highlight of the weekend for me.
Mhm.
So applause to all the people involved in making that panel happen. It was really something special.
Yes, very much agreed. And I think for even like kind of similar reasons, one of the other highlights for both of us was the Girl That's Scary podcast recording,
Hmm.
which is a fabulous podcast. Definitely check it out. I hadn't been familiar before I saw them announce for Midsummer Scream, but like listened to a few to kind of be ready,
Hmm.
and it was so good. And I think I heard that they had recording issues, so they may not
They
be able
did
to
have sound
release
problems. Yeah.
that episode, which is a bummer because one of my favorite parts of it was after so they were talking about kind of like horror that shaped them, things like that, and they had a lot of audience participation where they had people come up to say like what was the first horror movie that like you bought, or like what is the first horror movie that really impacted you. And
Hmm.
it's just so it was so cool to hear like a bunch of different perspectives from people about like what really scared them and what they've connected to over the years.
Yes. And uh Jazz and Kat, I've had the pleasure of kind of knowing them through one of my college friends who runs another wonderful podcast called Nightmare on Fierce Street. Sherry Bohannon and Trent Reese, they do a great job with that. Um, but they, not only was that recording great and they did such a wonderful job, one of my favorite parts of the weekend too was our wonderful friend Bianca from Spooky Melanin Magic surprised us. We did not know she was coming.
Yes.
She took the red eye from New York and surprised us all on Saturday
Amazing.
morning. The way that Jazz and Kat like embraced Bianca and she really, I mean, that's part of the reason I would love to have that recording too, is to hear Bianca
Mhm.
speak with them, because
Yeah.
that was so amazing. And I loved. I can't wait. Go follow Bianca, guys. Like, she's gonna be the one of us that like freaking takes off and is like on the Travel Channel within the
Yes.
year. I guarantee it. But like watching, and this happened multiple times throughout the weekend. Girl, That's Scary, I think, was the moment for Bianca, but it happened for all of us at different points. Like, watching my friends who are incredible, creative, smart, wonderful people get to have these moments where I watched like the light up inside of them, meeting other people who are passionate about the specific niche within the community that they are. Like, that was the coolest part. Like,
Yeah.
and like being in a room full of freaking people who love what you love as much as you love it is one of the best things, I think. I mean, that's why we go to conventions, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the whole point. um but yeah, absolutely, please, I go listen to Girl, That's Scary. It's really, really good. I love what they do at that podcast. It's fun and it's funny, but it's also really informative, and really they do a great job of, again, what we're talking about with the panel, like breaking down the issues within horror and how do we make it better. um if you're a if you're a lover of enjoying your horror from an intersectional experience, check them out, and Nightmare on Fear Street as well.
Yes. Oh, man. Oh, and I was just looking at it and I was like, well, we're probably ready to wrap up. And then I realized we didn't even talk about the drag show,
Oh my gosh.
which was another huge highlight and another, just example of bringing in different perspectives and
Hmm.
different artists, and you can have the coolest stuff. Yeah. So we had Night of the Living Drag, which was produced by Peaches Christ, who, if you are a drag fan, you have definitely heard of her work.
Yeah.
Just super influential drag performer, and has put together pretty much like when you see like those like drag parody kind of productions, most of those are Peaches Christ, and she put together an amazing show for Midsummer Scream.
She is
It was
also
yes,
Jinx's drag mom.
yes,
For if you're not into the more like fringe stuff of of if you're like only a drag race person, you probably know Jinx. So
yeah.
Peaches is Jinx's drag mother.
Yeah, and it was such a fun show. It was very weird to me that it was at like 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that would be a suggestion I would make for future.
Yeah, so I would love in the future to have, like, the drag show be, like, part of the after party or
Yeah,
other
that would be
evening
a blast.
entertainment. That would be so much fun, but it was still incredible, to see it, and there was such a great variety. We started with, like, a Scream-inspired number, we had a trick or treat number, we had some, like, very, like, what looked like it was going to be gruesome horror drag that turned into a White Christmas tribute,
My
which
favorite thing I've
was
ever watched.
so good. Yep, Drag Pool performed the Sisters number as, like, 2 horrifying creatures.
The fans were made out of like stitched together skin. Like,
Yes.
oh my, it was
Oh,
so funny. I was cry laughing. So
it
so
was
funny.
it was so good, and, we saw the wonderful Mr. He, do a performance, who
Mhm.
also is the one who did the disco mirroring on the giant skeleton that was on the show floor.
Mhm.
Obviously a multi-talented person, and, it was so much fun. Like, the energy in that room was incredible. Like, you could
Yeah.
tell the people were incredibly hype. This was one where like it definitely was a huge benefit to be a gold bat because it was standing room only. and I feel like probably some people didn't make it in just
I was
because it
gonna
was
say, I
so
think
packed in there.
they probably could have put that on the main stage,
Yes.
honestly.
Yeah, I would that definitely deserves to be on the main stage.
And, like, sometimes you go see a drag show and, like, there's a couple really standout numbers and everything
Mhm.
else is kind of like, I've seen it before. I Every single one of these performers were so creative.
Yes.
I believe Oceana was her name, the first performer who did the Scream
That was
mashup,
so fun.
and, like, when it started and the song she had picked, I was like, wouldn't it be funny? Like, this song is so it's really lending itself to the plot of Scream 4. Like, wouldn't it be so funny? And then she started doing the entire monologue of Emma Roberts at the end of Scream 4, and I was like, this is the type of drag I live for. Like, this is so
Yes.
smart. It's so funny. Uh Sam drag, Trick or Treat Sam drag, Lux the drag queen, that was something I didn't know I needed in my life. And I mean, the
It was
costumes,
iconic.
incredible. Yeah, that was so much fun. I almost didn't make it, and I'm so glad
Yes,
that I
we were saving a spot for Midge, and we were, like, desperately texting, we're like, "Where are you? It's starting."
well, and it was, like, both the best and the worst because I was getting stopped by people who recognized me and wanted to talk,
Yeah.
and I, like,
Mhm.
wanted to talk to them, but also I was like, "I have to
I
see the
gotta see.
drag, please."
Uh, yes, it was fabulous. I was going that's what I was like, I can't ask Midge what her favorite part of the weekend was because she's just gonna say the people and give like a super sweet answer, and you already did that. So I was correct. Um, but yeah, it was so much fun. One of the questions that we did get is like, is this just for like content creators? And
Mm,
definitely not. Like,
no.
certainly by far, like obviously our little group, we know each other because we all like to, do Halloween content. So you got kind of like that side of it. But it is for anybody who loves Halloween, who loves horror and
And
spooky
you
stuff.
also don't have to come the entire weekend. They
Yeah.
sell single
Mhm.
day passes, so if you live in California and you just wanna pop in, like, on a Saturday and see what it's about, you can do that. It's and there also, I think we did have a question on our Instagram post about, like, family friendliness, maybe, if I remember right? And, like, there were lots of family one of our friends brought their
Yep.
little baby kids. You can definitely bring your kids of all ages. There's stuff for everybody. It's a blast.
Yes, it was super fun, and I definitely hope that I will be back.
Well, you better be.
I mean, it's
We're all planning on next year already.
I would say I will be back barring like if I like break my ankle or something, then I
Why
probably
are you
won't.
even putting that out in the universe? You don't have a strong history with ankles.
I don't. That's why it came to mind. Ankles are a problem. And there's also so much good cosplay. We didn't even talk about cosplay. Like
Oh,
incredible costumes and cosplay from
here
folks
you go,
on the
Penny.
on there.
Here's my favorite part of the weekend that doesn't involve a sappy answer.
Yes.
It was the after party watching the Jackal and the Pilgrimess from 13 Ghosts
Yes.
dancing to Daft Punk
Hell
was
yeah.
like the funny, like, that in a nutshell is what Midsummer Scream
Yep.
is like horrifying monsters dancing to Daft Punk. Oh, that was so freaking funny.
So good. Yes. Well, this was an extra long episode, but we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I hope that you all enjoyed it. Sorry, it was a bit rambly, but you know that you're listening to two ADHD queens right now, so we just gotta follow the rabbit trail where it takes us, and that's how it's gonna be.
I did want to one more quick thing before we
Yeah.
wrap up, because someone on our post did ask about if they were not at Midsummer Scream and they
Oh
wanted
yes.
a sticker, or the so we had our El Gato Gomez uh, stickers with us to give out to folks at Midsummer Scream. We are going to have those available to you hopefully very soon. I'm going to try to get that done this week. So, but we will make a post on the Ghouls Night In Instagram as soon as that's available, and you can grab yourself a sticker, and hopefully we'll have like mugs and shirts and crap. So
Yay, merch.
yes, because that art
Awesome.
is too good not to. At minimum, I want it on a shirt.
Yes. Agreed. Uh, well, that was our Midsummer Scream recap. Thank you for listening, and thank you to everyone who did come and say hi to us.
Yes, it was so nice
That
meeting y'all.
I know we keep saying this was the best part. No, wait, this was the best part. It was so incredible to get to meet people who listen to the podcast, and thank you for coming to say hi. If you were too shy to say hi, hopefully we will be back next year, and then you have to. So that's
Yeah,
the
you
rule.
have to come to our live podcast recording in the Midsummer Scream podcast lounge that we're
Yes.
manifesting right now.
There it is. And thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, we would love to get a rating or a review from you on your podcast app. I do believe we have a new review to read today.
We do. This one is from V Gonzo Street. Or STM Street, maybe. I don't know. Saint? I don't
Who
know.
knows?
It is a 5-star review with the title Very Bingeable.
Hmm.
Have been binging this podcast from episode 1 to try to catch up, and it's a true delight. Laughed out loud when they talked about the girl with the green ribbon around her neck in one of the early episodes, because I absolutely remember that story and I never met anyone else who knew it. Oh,
Traumatizing.
yes, that's awesome. I'm glad that we could re-unlock that door in your brain that you certainly had closed very tight from the trauma it caused.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. But thank you very much for your review, and we're so happy to have you binging the
Yes.
podcast.
Love it. And if you would like to follow along, you can find the podcast on Instagram at Ghouls Night In Pod. We post fun photos for every episode and things like that. And if you would like to see more of me, you can find me at Penny Snark on all things.
And if you're looking for me, you can find me across all platforms at Midge Munster.
And as we and our friends trolled us with every time we parted over the weekend, it's time. We'll see you next time. For now, goodbye.